took a shovel to the basement. Oh, and you blistered up your hands, and you danced all night at the wedding. You stayed up drinking with the band, and you made love until the daylight was creeping across the floor. Oh, tell me, what else was it you were looking for? You felt the first chill of November steal inside your coat, right there with a fragile pulse of living fluttered in your throat. You left the house you thought you lived in, never even shut the door. Oh, tell me, what else was it you were looking for? Your little life, it came undone, the way that little lives do. So you spilled over to your friends, and bless them, your friends came through. And then one day you set it down, 'cause you did not need it anymore. Oh, tell me, what else was it you were looking for? In the clear light, could you meet me where the leaves are coming down? And if I learn to say your name, could you learn to stick around? Oh, we could walk, we could just say nothing, we could just say nothing more. And then what else was it looking for?
Hello everyone, and welcome to another live broadcast from TrueFire Studios. I know I say this a lot, but you are truly in for a treat today. Usually I talk over this intro and give you a long background on the artist that we're broadcasting with and shooting with this week, but I want you to experience Peter Mulvey in the way that we experienced him. I'm sure that you, like us, heard the name, heard his music. He's had, 18 records out there. He is very, very popular. He is the singer-songwriter's singer-songwriter. And we did a folk alliance in Kansas City, and we did our own little showcase, and we saw that Peter was going to be there, and our paths had not crossed yet, and so we asked Peter if he could come do the showcase. I personally, none of us actually had ever gotten to see Peter live. He came in, he did 3 or 4 songs, absolutely blew us away. Not only the songwriting, the presentation, his storytelling, but as you'll discover in this broadcast, he's a phenomenal guitar player. So perfect for TrueFire, right? We got down on our knees. We begged Peter, please carve out some time, come down to the studio. Let's do a project together. And we've spent 2 days on that project. His first, and I say first because we're going to do a lot of things together. First course is called String Traveler. Today, Peter's going to play a lot of songs. He's going to share some of his insight. You're going to get to hear some incredible guitar playing. So with that, thank you for stretching, Peter. I told you it would be short, but I couldn't help myself.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
You're
Good to be
welcome,
here.
man. I do remember, like it was yesterday, we had, I don't know, 5 or 6 artists in the showcase, you know, and I was sitting stage right. And, you know, I think I was operating the camera or something. I was very excited. And you started playing, man. It was like, for me, mesmerizing.
Thank you.
And then
man.
I had heard, and the songs that I'd heard of yours weren't what I would call like guitaristic, really didn't show off your guitar skills. But you have this way of kind of improvising some of the songs. We'll talk about that a little bit maybe, but man, I couldn't believe your guitar chops,
Thank you.
as well. So thank you for coming here. Thank you for putting together a really incredible curriculum. I think the TrueFire student body, including myself, is just going to absolutely love it.
Well, I had a great time making the course, and I really got to thank Tony. Like, the whole metaphor that occurred to me was like, he's the guy, he was behind the glass while I was doing this. And it was like he was the guy up in the helicopter, and I was the guy hacking down through the underbrush with the machete.
He's behind the curtain like the Wizard of Oz kind of a thing, right?
It's really useful, you know, because like I can see what's in front of me, but sometimes sometimes he can tell me like, man, you are right next to, if you just turn left,
right,
you're gonna reach the people.
Yeah.
You're gonna reach the people.
And that's the art of being a great producer, you know. So is to really kind of stay out of your way and at the same time help light up your way.
Totally.
You know, he does a fabulous job of that. Why don't we start by talking about, talk about String Traveler. What is, the elevator pitch for the course?
Well, somewhere in the middle of the course, it occurred to me when I was young. So I've been playing guitar now since I was a kid, since I was 7 years old. And in my teens, I think like every teenage guitar player, I found some heroes and I shredded, and I was listening to Alex Lifeson of Rush, and I was playing, and then I found Michael Hedges, and I thought, oh my God. And for a little brief amount of time, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to be one of those guitar guys. That's what I would like to be. But the truth is that I think my interests are just too wide, sort of small C Catholic. And so I fell in love with songs. I fell in love with process. I fell in love with the guitar. I fell in love with language. I fell in love with the framing of art, the creation of art, and always wanting to do live art. And I always wanted to play on the road, and that's what I have done. I've spent 30 years playing at least 130, 140 shows a year. So I'm up there at 3,000 or 4,000 shows by now.
So you've put in the proverbial 10,000 hours.
I really have
on the craft, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So let just those being a road dog, as you call yourself, right? How does going out and performing your songs influence your, let's call it, mastery of the craft of songwriting?
You ever see the movie Groundhog Day?
Absolutely.
That is what it is
that
to. That's what it is to be a performer.
Yeah.
It's the same moment over and over. You're living, except it's not a day. It's 2 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Mulvey. Like that's been said thousands of times now. And, you just step up on stage and there's that initial moment and it's like stepping into a canoe. There's a bunch of things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
All of them have gone wrong to me over the years.
Yeah.
And you get out there, maybe you say something and then you play a song. Over time, you eventually learn to just get up there and play a song.
Yeah.
Maybe play a couple of songs and then talk to the people. And if you're self-conscious, your show dies in that moment, and then you're dead for the next hour and a half, you know. And so I've been navigating through that moment over and over and over in my travels. And the beauty of it is, it's new to the people because I was in Newark, New Jersey last night, and tonight I'm in Princeton. Tonight I'm in New York City. Tonight I'm in Burlington, Vermont, or Fairbanks. And so it's not new to me, but I need to make it new. And that's where I learned everything.
So you know, before the session we sat down and I loved the discussion on how, you know, some artists stick to the script and play the song the same way 1,000 times the same way, while other artists may go completely off the script, and you kind of place yourself somewhere in the middle there, right?
Yeah, I do.
And my question for you about that, and then I'm hoping that maybe we can demonstrate that with Shirt.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, perfect.
Is do you do that because you're creatively motivated to do that, or do you do that to kind of make it not so Groundhog Day-ish for yourself?
For me, it's always about connecting to an audience. Like, that's the main thing. And so if you really want to connect to an audience, one of the things that I can do is, if I start improvising a little, if I phrase it differently, then I just put myself in a common situation with the other people in the room. They don't know what's about to happen, and I also don't know what's about to happen. And so now we have this bond.
Yeah.
Like, both of us maybe move forward a little in our seats and we go, I wonder what's going to happen next. And so I think that's where almost all the motivations for me come from, wanting to connect with an audience. Like you there on the other side of this camera. Like, all of my life, when I'm on stage, I'm thinking of the people on the other side of the lights. When I'm here, I'm thinking about you, I'm thinking about Tommy and the crew back there, and I'm also sort of thinking through the camera out to you guys. And so improvisation is a skill that I've developed, but I didn't really develop it for its own sake. I developed it so that I could connect.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So this is going to be very interesting. Right now, you have 138 people at this moment in time. We've just started.
Hello.
138 people watching live. We always ask people, tell us where you're tuned in from so that we can shout out to you.
Yeah.
A little bit different than an intimate club, but let's do a couple of things. One is, you know, one of my favorite songs of yours is Shirt.
Thank you.
And you kick off the course with Shirt.
Yes.
Right? Let's play that song.
Sure.
The way you present it first in the course.
Sure.
Okay? And then we'll talk about how you deconstruct it and then reconstruct it. But play for us, man.
All right. This is Shirt. It is, as you might have guessed, about a shirt. Light a fire, burn up all you know. You've had so much time to let things go. Now you're burning letters in the snow in your backyard. Years go rolling, you're 33. It is time for the cross, time for the Bodhi tree. Still you'd like to cry. Couldn't you just cry when you skin your knee? Ain't it hard? It's the same old friends on New Year's Eve. The same snow falls on the same old leaves. And there's the same old joy, same old hurt, same old corduroy shirt. Old storm windows and the broke-tailed squirrel and the grocery lists and the skateboard girls and oh, your rusted brain cells, they give you a twirl. Oh no, oh no, I've got a kitchen radio, I've got coffee on, I could use a little month to lean up on. Still the open road On the road it gets me gone, off I go. It's the same old jar of car keys by the door. It's the same old scuffed up floor. It's the same old thirst for more until they put me in the dirt. It's the same old nights alone. It's the same old baby when you coming home to feel the same old joy, feel the same old hurt. Same old corduroy shirt, same old corduroy shirt.
So
Thank you.
You're getting a taste if you haven't yet experienced Peter live, and we're live here.
Yeah, we are.
We're a little electronic, but we're live here.
Whatever happens is
kind
happening.
Of what just kind of perked up our antenna, shivers down our spine. It's just love your work. I'm gushing like a fan because I am a fan. Okay.
Thank you. Man.
Let's do some shout outs really quickly.
Sure.
So we're talking about our audience. You've got fans from Seattle, Winston-Salem, Syracuse, Haarlem in the Netherlands, Milan, Peru, Auburn, Melbourne, Australia, Kalamazoo, Michigan, Cleveland, Calgary, Belgium, Auburn, Denton, Yorkshire, Santa Ana, New Hampshire, Guatemala, Portugal, Rio de Janeiro, Germany, Cork, Ireland. You did some stuff out there.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite towns.
Could be one of your fans from Ireland that you might even know. San Francisco, Torsby, Sweden, the UK, Fresno, California, Argentina, and I believe Galway, Ireland just chimed in, Rome, Italy as well. So
Wow. Hello,
just
world.
think of how amazing that is. So you've traveled the world, thousands and thousands of performances.
Yeah.
This is kind of a new world, isn't it? Where
It really
we
is.
can get together here in, sunny St. Petersburg, Florida, land of blue hair and big water, right? And you're performing and interacting with fans from almost every continent and every time zone.
Yeah.
Well, how do you you were busking in the subways of Boston, okay?
Yeah.
And now in a way you're busking around the globe.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
It's been a beautiful thing, and it has occurred to me that those of us who have lived to see this, we're kind of the only people that have one foot in the old world and one
Right.
foot in the
That's
new world.
right.
You know what I mean? A lot. If you're younger, this is kind of all you know, and that's great. That's amazing. I kind of can't wait to see what the digital natives will do.
Yeah.
But I remember the very first time I went to tour Ireland. It was 1997 to do a formal tour.
Yeah.
I'd lived there as a student back in 1989. But in 1997, my instructions were fly to Dublin and then take the bus into downtown Dublin from the airport and go out toward the docks to this bar, and you'll meet this guy, Larry. Now, he's your tour manager. And he looks like Santa Claus. You know?
Oh, God.
And actually, what they said was he looks like Santa Claus and Jerry Garcia. And when I laid eyes upon him, I realized that Santa Claus and Jerry Garcia were kind of the same guy.
Yeah.
But that was it. That was the sum total of my instructions.
Yeah.
Go to
Love
this
it.
country and find this guy.
Love it.
And now, these days, you would have just said, hey,
Oh, yeah.
hi, I'm Larry.
Yeah.
I'll be meeting you I'll just
Yeah.
send you the Google Maps location. And so for me, it's really wondrous to be in this situation.
Yeah.
Hello, Argentina. Never set foot there. Hello, Sweden. Never been to Sweden.
Well, it's really we reflect on this all of the time, right? So the one thing, obviously technology has kind of sucked the life out of royalties from record sales, okay? And musicians have to find other ways to put food on the table, a roof over their heads, take care of their families, and keep making the music, to keep the music alive, right?
Yeah.
So thankfully and hopefully they'll never replace a live performance. And those live performances that you give, in intimate settings or large settings are really special events. You know, it used to be completely sort of different. You know, it was the album and the opening of the album and the liner notes. You remember those days,
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
And then, yeah, you went to the festival or you went to the concert, and that was cool. But now those live performances, even, you know, you're playing the Hideaway here, you know, intimate, incredible, memorable kind of event. At the same time, doing things like this is maybe what gets you to broaden your audience and play Australia, play Sweden, play, you know?
And weirdly, this feels intimate to me too. You know, like I think it has to do with scale. Like I've done live things, you know, I've hosted Mountain Stage and I've emceed the Ann Arbor Folk Festival. And those are not intimate performances because you're in a theater of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
But I actually feel like sticking a live feed, sticking a camera into a small room, it feels really natural to have a small present flesh and blood audience and then just be on the camera. That's sort of a stand-in for all the people who you know, to put it another way, you looking into the camera, we're about 6 feet apart, you and I, right? I mean, that's how it feels. And so from a lifetime of playing these tiny little rooms, I kind of just, it feels seamless. Like this is just more of the same thing. It's just that I can't see.
It's just a little different. And you know what you don't have the benefit of, you'll be able to read this later, but there's a live chat feed here. It's not,
sweet.
It's not, they're not, you know, drinking and talking and interrupting you. They're all, you know, immersed in this little presentation that you're giving us right now. You know? By the way, you have a shout out. Hey, Peter, it's Yukon and Jess. Checking in from the workbenches of Somerville, Massachusetts. Sounding good, brother.
Fantastic. Yeah, Yukon is the guy who does work on my guitars.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yep. And Jess Fox is a violin repair woman,
awesome.
luthier, you know, one of those people with a row full of chisels that actually has the patience to learn how to use them.
And just tease folks, we're going to tell you about this guitar, but don't run it down. Just tell them what year and what model that guitar is.
So this is a 1939 0017. It's a Martin 0017 from the year 1939.
So we will find out more about that later. Usually we do a gear thing at the end.
Cool.
It's going to be hard for me to keep us on track because there's so much to talk about and enjoy. But let's talk about how you've structured this course, because I think it's really, really special. Yes, there's a performance. Yes, if, you know, tab notated. You want to learn how to play and sing that song, you will certainly be able to do that. But that's not what this course is about. So describe what it's about and what we do now in the course with that tuned shirt.
So with the tuned shirt, what I do is play the song and then I take it all the way down to, you know, sort of the granular level. I take it way down to the nuts and bolts components. And there is so much to talk about. Like, let me, just a brief overview, like that initial guitar figure, which is where this song started. Basically, if you were gonna boil it down to its element, it's the use of contrary motion. So you got, and then you have, and then you have, so you have sort of a repeating motion in the foreground and the chords changing in the background, and that's what sticks about that. And that, then there's a theory that I'm always trying to return to, which is you don't actually create from nothing. Like creation is not as mysterious a process as we tend to think. Creation, you create something from something. So we have this repeating figure in front of the changes, and that gives rise to a vocal melody. And so on. So that melody, it didn't come from nowhere. It came from the very first idea. And then that gives rise, the melody gives rise to sort of a rhythm, and into the rhythm of those shapes you want to pour the words. And then the words come, light a fire, burn up all you know you've had so much time just to let things go. Now you're burning letters out in the snow in your backyard. And at that point, as my pal John Seeger says, at that point the song is done. You have a rhyme scheme there. You have a scene has been set. There is a protagonist in the scene. In this case, it's a second-person song, so the protagonist is whoever we're calling you. And now you're just answering a question. Something I always love to tell my songwriting students is that I was watching the Larry King show from a motel room in Eugene, Oregon. And Larry King had Sir Paul McCartney on. And he said, "So, Paul, how do you write a song?" And God love him, Paul McCartney goes, "Dum, dum, dum. You know, you start with something. Dum, 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 dum. And sometimes that leads to something else, you know. Dum, 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 da, da, dun, 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 rice in a church where a wedding has been." Well, who picks up the rice in a church where a wedding has been? And why would they do that? And then you just sort of follow those questions, and you've got a song. And, you know, I had in that moment these two competing reactions. Like, one reaction was all the hair on my arm stood up, and I went, "Ooh!" Sir Paul has come down from the mountain and shared with us how he writes. But the other reaction that I had was, yeah, sure, if you're Paul frickin' McCartney, that's exactly how it works. But the truth is, and this is what I always encourage my students to understand, it is like that. It's always like that. You have one idea, then you have another idea. Those ideas, they point you in a direction. Follow that through. It probably won't be genius. It probably won't be Eleanor Rigby. But when you are done, you will have a song. And you will be able to ask yourself, well, what works? What doesn't work? What works, what doesn't work, that's how you learn. And in that sense, you and Sir Paul McCartney and Joni Mitchell and Joan Armatrading, all the greats, you are colleagues with these people. They do it the way you do it. Create something else, and then that leads you in a direction.
Very good, man. So to give folks a kind of an idea of the curriculum. So if we take this song, Shirt,
Yeah.
Peter starts off, he performs the song, gives you a little bit of an overview about it. But then there are the following lessons. He deconstructs, breaks the elements of the song down, talks about the tuning and the capo, cultivating a guitar hook, finding the vocal melody, the spark of lyrical fire. These are all individual lessons. Expanding the lyric, a change in the chorus, an instrumental break, completing the narrative, co-writers and edits, and then finally the power and improvisation. All of them. How many hours, Tommy, do we have in this course so far?
I think we're looking at about 5 hours after editing.
Wow. And how many songs? Is it 5 songs, right?
5 songs and 1 bonus.
So we spend an hour breaking down the key elements of the song. And the purpose of the curriculum from Peter's perspective is, yep, learn the song. That's great. But learn how to fish, not the fish itself.
Yes.
So the last lesson before we get off Shirt is the power in improvisation. We were talking earlier how you might go off the script to connect with the audience. Would you give us or talk to that and then give us an example of that with Shirt?
Absolutely.
How you might tweak that for our audience here.
Yeah. So to give you an example, I consider myself and anyone who is a singer and a songwriter, you really have 2 voices. You have your voice, your physical singing and speaking voice, and then you have the guitar, which is sort of your secondary voice. And even if you consider yourself a better guitar player than you are a singer, you've been singing, or at least speaking and expressing yourself with your voice for a lot longer, because you started that when you were about 2 years old. And so what I like to do is take it a little off the path each time. Just find a a slightly new way through a song each and every night. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to just sing you the chorus of this tune, and I'm going to sing it twice and go into the instrumental break. So I'm going to sing it and go into the instrumental breaks. And then I'm going to sing it again and go into the instrumental break again. And I want you to just watch for just the subtle little changes that I make in phrasing, that I make in melody, both with this voice and with this voice. So, it's the same old friends on New Year's Eve. The same snow will fall on the same old leaves. And there's the same old joy, same old hurt, same old corduroy shirt. So the same thing can be done like this. It's the same old friends on New Year's Eve. The same snow falls on the same old leaves. There's the same old joy. There's the same old hurt. Same old corduroy shirt. So, the same chords in the same order, the same words in the same order, roughly the same shapes of melodies, and yet they were completely distinct from each other. And there were successes and failures along the way, but the point is that it allows the song to breathe and become much more of a fluid, living process than an artifact. And I think that's just a personal choice of mine. I feel like if I did it the same way every night, I would feel like someone who was just setting a series of artifacts on a table and then giving a museum guide tour, that can be fascinating. I've been on museum tours that are fascinating, but I myself would get bored. And if you're bored, the audience is bored,
Right.
you know? And so you kind of have to, your own aesthetic is this weird little moving target, and you kind of have to give it the room to move and hold still enough to notice that it's moving and then try to move with it night after night after night. I feel like that process is a lot more useful than any particular knowledge. Just understanding that your own aesthetic, having a little respect for it and treating it like a living creature.
Awesome. Before we do Black Rabbit,
Yeah.
another one of my favorites, I want to bring attention to, we have, if you go underneath the video, you'll see that we have a promo code.
Oh, cool.
This is the gratuitous advertising part. Okay?
I always wanted a promo
I do this
code.
for you, okay?
Thank you.
So the promo code, and you do have your own promo code. It's Mulvey Live, one word. Right under the video, you can take 25% off the pre-order of this course, which is available right now. So anyone that's kind of digging this, here's a great way to save, you know, a lot of money on the course and support the art and craft of singer and songwriting.
Sweet.
We also have a trivia question.
Yes.
So don't give away the answer. And by the way, if you know the answer, do not answer it in the chat thread, please. Someone did that last time and everyone had the answer. And that, of course, increases or lowers your odds of winning. Here's the question. You're going to click on the link if you know the correct answer. Hint, you can find this on Peter's website, which is?
www.petermulvey.com.
Nice. Here's a question. How does Peter travel? String Traveler. Get the...
Oh, right.
Okay. How does Peter travel during his annual autumn tour in the Northeast, which is now in its 10th year, I think?
Yeah.
Okay.
More than that. 12,
So
13,
you tell
yeah.
us how he travels. You click the link, you answer it there. We'll pull randomly one winner and give you a $100 TrueFire gift card. It's a pretty good deal, right?
I like this.
Let's do Black Rabbit, but this time talk about a couple of the things that folks should be listening for. You know, some of the 10 or so lessons that you give along with this song. One of them like iterations and phrases, call and response, song takes flight. Tell us what to listen for when you're performing the song.
Yeah, so this is an outlier among my own songs. I wrote this a long time ago. And it's before I knew a ton about songwriting or frankly even the guitar. And it kind of snuck in the door. It's called Black Rabbit. One of the things that you might want to listen for is that it is through composed. So it's not really verse, chorus, verse.
What did you call that? Through
composed.
Okay.
So it's sort of, it doesn't repeat a lot. It does have melodies that repeat, but there's no part of it that you could call a verse, no part of it that you could call a chorus. It has sort of a call and response form within it, from one melody to another. And then there's a mechanism at work which is, I call it the Einstein mechanism. Einstein said, no problem was ever solved from within the plane of thinking that created the problem in the first place. So the way that this works, if you were to think of it in its melody and its harmony and its progression, it's sort of out there searching. It's got a very legato feel and it's searching for something. And then at some point, it breaks free of that search and it sort of takes off in flight, and then it returns us. So this is called Black Rabbit. Thank you.
I think you either did that or something similar to that in our showcase.
Yeah,
Which,
I would
by
have
the
done
way,
it. Yeah.
I said it was in Kansas City. It was Montreal where we met.
All right. It's
You know,
all
it's
takes
all a
place.
blur.
It's in a hotel room.
Yeah,
That's where it always is.
So, we get asked a lot about, obviously we have a lot of guitar players. We have focused solely on the guitar for many years, expanded to bass and other stringed instruments, and now we're really embracing the singer-songwriter category.
Right.
And, the marriage between groove and melody and lyrics and the whole craft of being a singer-songwriter, I think is very, even if you don't want to be a singer-songwriter, maybe that's not your aspiration, but understanding what makes a song work from the perspective of those who write songs, I think help us, we students of guitar, when we're playing with others, do a better job of participating in that conversation. What's your view on that?
I tend to agree. I mean, here's the best way that I'd say it. Like Michael Hedges, who was one of the most innovative guitar technicians, invented whole techniques that, people have had to come up with notation to express,
Crazy.
But really, the strength of his tunes are his tunes. They are really beautifully composed. In fact, I'm never going to have time to do this, but for about the past 8 or 10 years, it has occurred to me that I would love to like get a small instrumental ensemble, like a great clarinet player and a great vibes player, a great percussionist and a cellist, and then just do a record of Michael Hedges tunes with no guitar at all in them. And I think that would be a beautiful project.
Yes, it would.
And again, like if you think of the absolute greats, if you think of guitar players we all love, honestly, the things that we remember are the things that kind of sing themselves. Like the guitar intro to Stairway to Heaven. Yes, Jimmy Page is a rock star and he can shred and all that, but honestly, it's just that we remember that thing that we all learned to play when we're 14 years old, Yeah. So, actually, let me turn that telescope completely around. I think in one's own life, you've probably met people who are virtuosos with language, and when they're done talking, they really didn't say anything. I mean, it all sounded fine, but they didn't have a point. I feel like there's a danger of that in guitar. You can get lost in the technique of it. It always returns to, do you have anything to say? No matter what kind of a virtuoso you are, have you got something to say? And so, I think writing is actually a huge part of good guitar playing.
It is, and when you display your chops on the instrument, it serves the song.
That's the hope.
It doesn't distract the listener away from the song. Larry Carlton, who's, I'm like big fan of Larry's forever, and who's not, right? Has, I guess, an adage that someone taught him many years ago when he started being a session player. He was wondering, he'd go in there. He was obviously just incredible in sessions, and they'd tell him do this, and he'd pull out his chops, and they wouldn't take that. That would never make the record, right? And I think it was Tommy Tedesco, who was a mentor of his, who said, Larry, why they're not using your takes is because you need to think like an arranger, serve the song, play what the song needs, know, not what you think is going to be like a cool riff. And so it's not lost on me. So he's passed that on to me and everybody else at TrueFire. And so when I listen to singer-songwriters who also happen to be really good guitar players, anytime they do a little instrumental break or even an instrumental, it's always serving the song or serving the melody. So
yes.
Let's play some more, shall we? How about Knuckleball Suite?
You got it.
Think you can pull that off?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Why don't
live? We're live here. Can
we
you
are
pull it
live.
off live.
Thank God for the electronic
we
tuner.
can't punch here. Okay.
So
What tuning was the previous Black Rabbit in?
So Black Rabbit was essentially in Dadgad, but a whole step down. All my tunings are a whole step down.
Right.
So when I'm in an open C tuning, it's actually an open B flat tuning.
Okay.
And now.
And was Shirt in open C?
Shirt was in open C but with
B
a
flat.
But B flat, and then instead of a major third up top, it had a second up top, or a second or a ninth, however you want to put it.
And this one?
It's in a variant of an open G shape, which for me would be open F.
Okay.
But then I've capoed back up to the 4th fret, so that we're sounding in the key of A. But I've left the 6th string running open so that the capo doesn't touch it.
So given you perform and write so many songs in so many different tunings, you must have gotten pretty good at talking while you're tuning, right?
Hugely. Yeah, that's a huge, and that's a skill that just takes time, you know. The electronic tuner has definitely helped because it allows you to sort of run this part of the thing.
So before the electronic tuner, how would you tune did you have a tuning fork? How would you tune the different open tunings all the time?
Well, honestly, I still remember this day. I would just sort of tune and put the guitar in tune to itself.
Yeah.
And so, of course, when you loosen 2 of the strings a long way, the other ones, they go sharp a bit.
Right.
And so the whole guitar would wander a few cents sharp, few cents flat during the show.
Yeah.
And then I started working with an accompanist. And he's in standard tuning the whole time. So he's not moving. And I'm like shifting north of him and south of him. And he was like, man, get a tuner. Man, get a tuner. Like, and really, like I realized once I got a tuner, I was like, oh my God. I just spent 6 weeks throwing you under the bus.
I know, crazy, right?
Right. So, that was a learning experience for me.
So set up Knuckleball Suite. It's inspiration from covers, you've said, right?
Yeah. So originally, I wrote this in standard tuning in the key of C, and all I did was take She Belongs to Me, that Bob Dylan tune. She got everything she needs. She's an artist. She don't look back. And I did it in a 6/8 time in the key of C, so it was like, you know, she got everything she needs. She's an artist. She don't look back. She got everything she needs. She's an artist. She don't look back. She can take the dark out of the daytime. She can paint the nighttime black. And I had a friend who was playing mandolin, and we had this magical moment for no purpose other than to enjoy it. It was like at a post-show hang. And we created this brand new version of this old Dylan tune, and it was beautiful, and then we just let it go by. I didn't have any intention of putting it on a record or of doing anything with it, really, except that I had that sort of feeling and the sort of high mandolin-y sounds with the low-tuned guitar and my own voice, and I thought, well, this is really good. And so I just wrote my own lyrics, and I changed the key, and I changed the tuning. I went out of standard tuning into this crazy tuning, and I got myself a song built on the scaffolding of that other song. So I changed sort of like the interior and then the exterior. And so that's how this song was born. And this arrangement of this song is my attempt to recreate how a band would go after it, how a rhythm guitar player and a drummer would work with a bass player and would work with a lead guitar player. And so everyone, I want you to think of this as though it were a quartet, and I'm doing my best to use just this one instrument and these 6 strings to bring that out. It is a warm summer evening, I can just hear the knuckleball sweet. It's a warm summer evening, I can just hear the knuckleball sweet. I can hear the clover hum along, I can hear the rain clouds finding their feet. This town is a talisman, it's a vanishing breed. This town is a talisman, and we are a vanishing breed. But our song is a first chair viola lost in the weeds. Billy C is drinking Sandy Man port down at the old cafe. Billy C is drinking Sandy Man port down at the old cafe. The little river goes by slow, the little river, it likes it that way. Sal is barefoot in the backyard, calling out to that star above the pine. Barefoot in the backyard, calling out to the star above the pine. Oh, for once the star answers, Sal, you are the wine, you're the wine, you're the wine. My brother Franklin is the ace. Franklin, he's a wily sport. My brother Franklin is the ace, and the man is a wily sport. Go now to the old cafe to sit with Bill and drink the Sandy Man port. It's a warm summer evening. Oh, I hear the sweet. It's a warm summer evening. Oh, I hear the sweet. I can hear the clover hum along. I can hear the little rain clouds finding their feet. The clover hums along. Tell me, aren't these summer evenings where you and I used to meet? All of these warm summer evenings are where we once and again shall all meet.
Beautiful, man. Love it.
Thank you.
Have you ever thought about covering some Dylan tunes your way?
Oh, yeah. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing, in all of this course, I didn't get into this, but I've written, a few hundred songs. I write a lot. I've thrown probably 2/3 of them away. And I've kept maybe 100 some, you know. But I have learned thousands of tunes. I've probably learned 100 Dylan tunes. I've probably learned 10 or 15 Joni Mitchell tunes, 30 or 40 Greg Brown tunes, 20 tunes by my friend Timmy Guerin, 40 Tom Waits tunes. You are what you eat, and also, unlike painters, like a painter they can look at a Degas, they can look at, a Monet, and they can sort of make their own painting and feel what those motions are like. But I feel like we musicians, especially we writers, we get the chance to just actually sing the words and feel what it feels like to sing those words in that rhythm. And I'm in a band that plays Tom Waits' Rain Dogs all the way through. So I had to learn each and every song. Yeah. And right. You get this sense of man, a big thing with him on that whole record would be to he would do a song in a given key, and the entire song is built on 6 minor and then 4 heavily dominant. And he uses that across 5 different songs. And so then the next time you go to write a batch of tunes, you notice that in your own work. Or you're like, oh wow, like 4 minors kind of like in 4 or 5 of these songs. Totally cool. Like, you know, it becomes parts of the palette. So absolutely, covers are. So, the thing is that my own show is mostly my songs. And it's kind of like what I'm showing you is the tip of the iceberg of the stuff that I've built. Almost everything that I've built is like any good artist, hopefully. It's built out of everybody else's work. You know, like you stand on the shoulders of giants and then you put your own little peak above the water.
Right,
you know?
exactly. And you know, there's a big difference between like covering a tune and playing it the exact way they did it with the exact, and interpreting the tune. It's like, look at jazz. Look at how many hundreds of standards have been interpreted in hundreds of different ways. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
I just had to ask you that because I would love to hear a cover of the little Dylan thing that you did
in
that tuning in that way. It was killer, man. A little bit of housekeeping. We have some more folks chiming in from Morocco, Lubbock, Texas, Munich, Norway, Arkansas, Quincy, California, Italy, Guisano, I think, is the right pronunciation, Austin, Texas, again, Missouri, Walpole, and Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas, man. So
put a
getting
nickel in the
crazy.
slot machine.
We're recovering. You know, I think we've just connected the globe here.
Yeah.
I do have some questions for you, up for some questions.
Of course.
And before we get there, I just want to bring your attention to use it, pick it up. You've got 48 hours to use that promo code Mulvey Live on pre-order of String Traveler. And you've got a little time left to answer the trivia question. Click the link below the video. Don't answer it in the thread. How does Peter travel during his annual autumn tour in the Northeast? We're going to give away a $100 gift card. And listen, while you're hanging out below the video, if you help us get those thumbs up a little bit northward of where it's at, and you've already got a lot of thumbs up, so good for you.
We love them.
If you help me get that northward, there's certainly enough of you out there to help us hit 100. I will force Peter to tell his DIA story. At the end. Will you do that?
Yeah, I'll totally do that.
Okay, cool. So here's some questions for you, man.
Right.
From CG Arndt. Question for Peter. Does he have any tips to developing his rhythm, mainly his work with his right hand?
Oh, I mean, the single biggest thing for developing the rhythm in my right hand has been playing with good drummers and playing with other musicians. I consider it one of my weak spots. You know, it's a thing that I've had to work on. I work on hard. When I was in a band when I was a teenager, I envied my buddy Joe Panzetti. He just had great time. My buddy Jeffrey Folkall, the way he finger picks, I would kill for time that solid. But, you know, you're sort of given the physical attributes you have. And I always felt that my time was fairly wandery and not as deliberate as I wanted it to be. And so most of what I learned by playing with really solid drummers and sort of learning to feel, and a lot of it will be discomfort. I would feel like a drummer was dragging, and so then I would rush even more and the drummer would fall back. What I learned over many uncomfortable hours of playing with drummers is they are sitting back in the pocket, and that's a part of solid rhythm. And so it took all of the discomfort to arrive at that. And then the other thing is just playing in an ensemble, you sort of entrain with other people. If you don't have the ability to go out and find an ensemble to play with, get a metronome. Just get an old-fashioned metronome, the sort of tick-tock back and forth kind, and work with it all the time, or get an electronic kind and work with that. The idea is not to become robotic, but to learn what a constant pulse feels like so that you can find out, are you the rushing type? Do you need to dial it back? Are you the draggy type? Do you need to sort of press? So, and then the other thing is there's no orthodoxy. Like, I know people, I'm one of them. Sometimes when I'm finger picking, I have an urge to put my finger down. Some people tell you not to do that. Some people tell you to do it. I tell you to do what works. Do what works. You know, if that grounds you and it makes you feel more solid, then do it. On and on, you know, finger picking, thumb picking, whatever your strong suit is, run towards that. Whatever your weak suit is, work on it.
Good tip, man. Nathan Smith wants to know what you read on the road. Classics, poets, popular stuff.
Past 6 or 7 years, it has been mostly poets. I've gone through like a pretty rabid poet phase. Before that, it was nonfiction. I went through a pretty solid nonfiction phase. Steven Pinker, Sam Harris, that guy Blink. What is that guy's name? The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell. And then, of course, there's always listening. And again, interestingly, back when I was reading a lot of nonfiction, I was listening to a lot of music. Los Lobos and Solace, I love that Irish trad band. And then sort of the composers, Steve Reich is a big guy with me. And, of course, Tom Waits, and of course, Duke Ellington, of course, Joni Mitchell, sort of the stars that we all steer by. So when it was nonfiction, it was music. Now that I'm reading poetry, I'm listening just to a lot of nerded out podcasts, mostly political stuff.
Awesome. Here's a great question from Rabatavus. Any tips for someone, like myself, in fact, unable to play and sing at the same time?
That is just, I have maybe the most useful thing that I could tell you is find out how weird it is to slow the tempo down really to like 2/3 or even halftime. Halftime might be a little alien, but 2/3 and take it really, really slowly. So that like instead of it ain't no use to sit and wonder why, baby. If and you don't know by now. Ain't no use sitting, wonder why, baby. Try that. Set your metronome and then set it even slower. Because here's the thing. I feel like what takes almost all of us out of it is self-consciousness, which leads to physical tension. Like you might think that your problems are mental, but even mental problems are largely physical problems. So if you can sort of trick yourself out of thinking about it, and I feel like one of the ways to access that is to just slow things way the hell down. Also, be sure you do all this stuff alone, so you know that nobody's watching.
Good tip, man. Here's one from Brogue. How do you arrange tunes not originally built for picking? What he's saying, I mean, how do you transform it? I try to do so, but sometimes those versions might sound empty or boring.
Right. I know what you mean. Things sort of, one is if it doesn't work in your new arrangement, try a few tweaks, but also be willing to just say, well, it was worth finding out that it didn't work. Like that sometimes can be the thing you come away from. You're like, you know what, I'm going to try a version of this tune this way, and if it just doesn't have any magic, at least you, by a process of elimination, have discovered that version of that doesn't have any magic. So I guess, what was that again? So you're trying to find out...
I think he's asking that they weren't originally built for maybe finger picking.
Right.
Maybe it's a song with strumming.
Right.
But his finger picking arrangement is kind of sounding empty once he does it.
I gotcha. If it's sounding empty, my counterintuitive advice would be to make it emptier. We usually try to fill the space when it feels empty, and the truth is that sometimes you need to head in the opposite direction. Like think of that song, One by U2. It's strummed, right? Is it getting better? Or do you feel the same? If it were fingerpicked, what if it went, is it getting better? Or do you feel the same? Have I made it easier on you? Now you got someone to blame. One love. You see, there's less there, and what happens is that the rhythm itself, the pulse of the time of it, enters into that space. Is it getting better? Or do you feel the same? So that's one solution. It may not suit the tune that you are going for, but I always sort of try to do that judo thing, like, all right, this feels busy. Let's make it busier, you know, or, oh, this feels slow. Let's slow it down, you know.
That's a great answer, you know, and I know exactly what he's talking about, because you hear all the time online someone taking, let's say, a cover tune you're familiar with, they do a beautiful finger-picking version of it, but it's not working.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Great answer, man. Here from Edward Johns, the way Peter's lyrics and singing blend with his playing is really special. Does the lyric and natural meter of it always determine his rhythm? Can he give an example of how he develops a lyric line? You touched on this a little bit in the beginning. It's kind of like you started with a riff and then matched the meter or the rhythm qualities of the musical riff with the lyric line. Does it ever work in reverse?
It has been known to work in reverse, but I would say a good 2/3 to 3/4 of the time, music gives rise to a melody, and the melody is done wordlessly, usually sort of with grunting sounds. And like
Give us an example of a grunting.
Well, here's a tune that I wrote with Timmy Guerin. It's called Kids in the Square, and I just had this. And honest to God, there are words that want to fit that sort of grunty melody. Like that's where most of it comes from. It's like animal noises. The dear departed Christopher Hitchens said, regard all experts as mammals. And I've always loved that because, you know, the greatest songwriter, the greatest poet, they're still a hominid. They're a primate making sounds with their body. And so when that lyric did come along, if you got a pretty good idea of what you are looking for, then you got a pretty good idea of what you will find. You don't have to go so very far these days to find yourself a made-up mind. You know what occurs to me? I want to double back about 3 questions ago. I swear that the good drummers I've worked with have had more of an effect on my lyric writing than I give them credit for. Because all lyrics happen within rhythm. And rhythm is the fundamental, you know. Early one morning, the sun was shining. I was laying in bed. You don't even need to know what he's saying. What did she would take before he would dare what to pray. You know, it's fantastic.
What a great point, man. What a great point. And you know, the story you told earlier about Paul McCartney, that started out with just a pulse, just a little bit of a rhythm, right?
Right.
Love it, man.
Right.
Great. It's time for you to play Who's Gonna Love You Now.
All right.
What tuning are we going to here?
It's standard tuning for me, which is standard tuning a whole step down. And then I've got the capo. I've got the capo on the 4th fret, but only the first 5 strings. And so that gives you this sort of a C chord shape. In this case, that'll be a D note. With that big
But that's standard tuning, capo on the 4th fret.
Well, standard tuning a whole step down and then capo on the 4th fret.
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
I know. I'm.
All
That's.
right. You guys are all wacky.
I'm
How are
a
we
problem.
supposed to follow all that? But you know, before you do that,
Yeah.
there is. I've heard other singer-songwriters, many of your peers, also tune down
Yeah.
to get what? Explain why you guys do that.
There's a few advantages to it. One is that all the strings are under less tension, and so it's just easier to play long hours on the guitar because there's slack in the strings. And then also, like when I first did that, and that was 30 years ago, I discovered that I was a baritone. Like all of a sudden, all my songs opened up. And then there's a hidden feature, which I've just now come to realize, which is that your voice deepens as you go on through life. Another way to say that might be that it decays. Some of us are mutants. Paul McCartney is a mutant. Go see his concert, and he sings every tune in the original key from 50 years ago. I don't know what is happening there. I don't want to know. But yeah, so like being tuned down has given me like a lot of breathing room. And then also a lot of beautiful sounds you can't get any other way. So should I play the tune?
Please.
All right. When this bird has flown, when spring has sprung, when what you used to know like the back of your hand isn't even on the tip of your tongue, when the chips have settled, when the dust is down, when you have washed off the grease paint and you're still a clown, who's gonna love you? Who's gonna love you now? Who's gonna love you? Who's gonna love you now? Now. When the bottle is empty, when the money is gone, when you are just another angry old man shouting, "Get off of my lawn," when your tree has fallen and there was no one to hear it, when your heart is a cornered stray and you can't get near it, who's gonna love you? Who's gonna love you now? Who's gonna love you? Who's gonna love you now? Now. When the bottle is empty to the last top dog, when the princess has kissed you soundly and you are still a frog, when there's no way through, when the only way is out, when it is all over but the shouting and you're too tired to shout, tell me who's gonna love you? Who's gonna love you now? Who's gonna love you? Who's gonna love you? Who's gonna love you now? Now.
Another one of my favorite tunes.
Oh man, thank you.
Unbelievable, man. I'm gushing, but I could, you know, someone said it here. I totally agree. Brogue said, "Can we keep going for another 2 or 3 hours, please? I'm having one of the best times ever listening to this."
Oh,
okay?
sweet.
Fabulous, man. I want to get in more tunes. Guys, I want you to shoot over to that thumbs up, please, because I really want to put the DIA story out into the world. And as a bonus, I'll also have Peter play the Fox.
All right.
Okay, another one of my fabulously favorite tunes. How about Dynamite Bill? Let's shoot right into that. And
Sure.
This is like, you know, you talk about temporary roadblocks, sound versus the meaning of lyrics. Talk a little bit about that before you perform it, would you?
Yeah. I mean, so this tune was started by my good friend Timmy Guerin, who's a wonderful Boston songwriter. And I like walked in to his house and he already had this whole first verse written. It was up and running. And it had very little to it. It was like this incantatory chant, like, she was just a stranger, she was just a stranger, she was just a stranger too. And my antenna go up like, who is she, who is she? Oh, she was just a stranger, she was just a stranger, she was just a stranger too. And I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fantastic. She was just a stranger, she was just a stranger, she came into town looking for a manger. She was a stranger. She wasn't looking for you. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. And then the two of us put our shoulder to the wheel for an hour and nothing happened. Like every idea we had just was inert and we couldn't move the ball anywhere down the field. And we just gave up in sort of tiredness and disappointment and disgust. And then I wrote an email to my dad months later, you know, and asked him about this character that he knew when he was a little boy. My father grew up on a farm in central Wisconsin. And so there was a guy named Dynamite Bill, this demolition man. And my dad wrote me about this guy. He was a World War I sapper, and he just wrote this charming little letter back to me about it. And the song came alive again. And I guess the lesson there is, you know, don't worry, just don't worry. Like everything you do is a part of the process. All the bad songs you write are what help you write the good songs. And all of the sort of fizzled out songs and scraps of songs, I've come to think of creative, like you want to sort of cultivate the Pigpen approach. Remember Pigpen from Peanuts? He like had this just cloud of filth around him. I feel like you need that as a songwriter. You just, all these ideas should be floating around you. Like Linus Pauling, I think, said, the best way to have good ideas is to have lots of ideas. And so like, but you know, by the time I wrote Dynamite Bill, I'd written so many songs that by necessity, I'd also failed to write twice as many songs. And so I wasn't afraid of failure anymore, and I wasn't afraid of a dead end. You can just let those things happen and sort of lie there in your cloud, and then they might just germinate into a song. And so this one did. And it sounds like this. She was just a stranger, she was just a stranger, she was just a stranger too. She was just a stranger, she was just a stranger, she was just a stranger too. She was just a stranger, she was just a stranger. She came into town looking for a manger. She was a stranger, she wasn't looking for you. She was shining like the city, like the city, like the city, like the light of a city by the sea. Shining like the city light and pretty like the light of a city by a shining sea. Shining like the city light and I was half lit up like a half-assed Christmas tree. Shining like the city light, she wasn't looking for me. Her name was January Medley, January Medley. She run off with Muhammad Ali. January Medley, Medley. She run off with a little boy, Muhammad Ali. January Medley, not particularly deadly, shining like the light of a city by the sea. January Medley, she ran off with Muhammad Ali. She was looking for Dynamite Bill, Dynamite Bill, standing in the back of the room. Dynamite Bill, Dynamite Bill, standing in the back of the room. Funny, but you never think you're gonna need a bill till someday something happen and you find that you will need Dynamite Bill because you gotta make something go boom. And so now January medley and Dynamite Bill and the little boy Muhammad Ali. I'll run off to Honolulu, or maybe Astapulu, or maybe just as far as the eye can see. With Dynamite Bill, they be living there still. At least that's what a little word he whispered to me. January medley, Muhammad Ali, Ali. Oh, she was just a stranger, a stranger, a stranger, a stranger, a stranger too. She was just a stranger, a stranger, a stranger. She was just a stranger too. She was just a stranger with an element of danger. Came into town, she was looking for a manger. She was a stranger, she wasn't looking for. She was just a stranger, she wasn't looking for. She was just a stranger, she wasn't looking for you.
I love it, man. That's great.
Thank you.
I love those lines. Okay, listen, you've gotten a lot of love, a lot of thumbs
sweet.
up, man. There's a question Ice Pick Licks asked. He says he's ashamed to say he owns none of your albums. He wants to know, are there any that you're most proud of? If someone had to buy one Peter Mulvey album, what would that be?
Well, what my general answer, and this is what I'd say about any artist, buy the new thing. Buy the most recent thing I've done.
Yeah.
If you were to buy two, buy the first record and the most recent, and then ask yourself, in what way are these guys remotely similar, and how did the guy get from point A to point B? Like, I love to, if someone's going to get into Tom Waits, I say, like, get his new record and get his very first record and ask yourself if he got from A to B. So,
good suggestion, man.
yeah, just get the new one, which is called There Is Another World.
Indeed there is, too, right?
Yeah.
Tell the DIA story.
You got it. So this is actually this is pertinent to songwriting. The song is called DIA, which stands for Denver International Airport. And what happened was that I had a run of gigs out in Colorado, and I was picking up the opening act at the Colorado airport, and I was staying on a friend's farm in Gun Barrel, which is north of Boulder. And we songwriters, we would love you to believe that the way that it works is that we're just these esoteric creatures, and songs just sort of find us, you know, by some magic. And that's not how it works. It's really not a mysterious process. It's like anything. You just do it day after day after day, and eventually you will write songs. I think it was Tchaikovsky who said, I show up at the writing desk every day at 8 in the morning, and the muse has learned to be on time. So, you know, the other thing is, the process itself might feel mysterious, but it's not that mysterious. You get quiet, and you just go into the woods, metaphorically, in this case, the woods of your own mind, and you wait. And you have to wait to catch the songs, and the really big ones, you have to wait and be super quiet. And you'd better silence your phone, because if you're in the middle of the hunt for a really good one and you get an alert, you will be punished. That song will be like, I can't work under these conditions, and you will never see that song again. All of that is just to set the stage for this song, which this song is a unique little critter. I woke up alone in this outbuilding at a farmhouse, and the only things in the room with me were a banjo and a coffee maker and a manual typewriter. And so, you know, I made a big pot of coffee, and then I sat down with the banjo at the typewriter, and I swear that this time, this song just came waltzing in like a big, happy, stupid labradoodle, just like, hi, hello, hi, what are we a song about? Are we a song about coffee? I love coffee. And I was like, are you for real? And I went to Breakfast Next Door, and the song just came with me. It's like, I will be a song about breakfast. I love breakfast. And I like get to, you know, I'm driving to the airport. Song is like in the passenger seat with its head out the window, like, I love driving to the airport. And I don't know if this is a good song, but I do know that this song loves me. he made us breakfast. And now I'm rolling down to DIA. I hated to leave his welcome table. Half a dozen bright souls just starting their day. Greg fixed us eggs, we all drank coffee, and talked about all sorts of different stuff. I did some dishes so I could linger, but there's never time enough. Oh, Google Maps, I thank you kindly for telling me to take Pena Boulevard. Oh, but my heart, it lingers back there in the house with the typewriters and the chickens in the yard. When you write a poem on a typewriter, it is kind of hard not to use parentheses. Get off my ass, tailgating mister, broke my spell with your SUV. Hold me, touch me, hold me, touch me, feed me. That's what my phone always says, it needs me. But I don't need you, phone. He made us breakfast, and now I'm rolling down to DIA. But there's no sickness, toil, or danger in that bright world to which I go. I'm going home to see my mother. I'm going home, no more to roam. I'm only going over Jordan, only going over home. I'm only going over Jordan, only going over home.
Great labradoodle, baby. That's good, man. So Amy Kelly, apparently a connoisseur of your music, says, Peter's done such a wide variety of music. Rapture is one of my favorites, maybe my all-time favorite. So that's a good tip for folks.
Sweet.
Jay McCullum says, Notes from Elsewhere is a great compilation of the early stuff polished through performance and experience. Silver Ladder, and the newest one are very much where he is now. And Lucky D thanks you for being such an inspirational character and thanks us for bringing you to these folks.
Oh, sweet. I'm glad to be here.
So let's tell everyone about the guitar.
Yeah.
And then let's have you play The Fox Out.
Sounds good to me.
We've run a little over, but no one seems to be complaining, least of all myself. So,
me neither. So what do you want to know about the guitar?
Where could you possibly have put your hands on a guitar as fine as that and vintage as that?
So for years, I traveled with a modern version of this guitar. The OM15, Martin sort of resurrected this guitar, the all mahogany guitar. And I'll tell you what happened. I was in Sylvan Music in Santa Cruz, California. And I saw a 1937 version of this guitar, and it's like $3,500. And I was playing it and just I fell in love with it, and I was like playing jazz standards on it and just making out with this guitar. And then I was like, but I just can't afford this thing. I can't afford a $3,500 guitar. And so I went and got back in my rental car and played the last 4 gigs on the tour. And when I was flying home, I realized I was going home to do my taxes. And I knew what I was going to see, that I spent like $6,000 on airplane tickets. And I spent $4,300 on gasoline. And I spent $5,500 on hotel rooms. I spent $2,900 on Facebook advertising. I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah,
like,
something's wrong with this picture.
Right, like I don't even like gasoline, and I spend thousands of dollars on it every year. You know, so basically I was like, that's it. I'm going to find space in my budget, and I'll buy myself a beautiful old guitar. So I actually found this online through that reverb.com thing, but it was through a local guitar shop down in Auburn, Alabama, and they shipped it up to me. It was improbably inexpensive. I think it was like $1,900, but that was because it needed, you know, $1,000 worth of work, and so, you know, I took it, at the time I was living in Milwaukee, so I took it to my man, Garrett Burton of Old World Guitars. He's a wonderful luthier there, and I just had him, you know, he rebuilt the bridge, rebuilt everything, took the neck off, put it on at the right angle, and this thing has just got, I don't know how many years of songs in it, you know, 80. I do know
beautiful.
how many, 81.
And it sounds gorgeous.
I love this
as well.
guitar.
What did you just put on the bridge there?
Oh, that is a little strip of paper. This is a trick I saw many, many years ago. My friend Louise Taylor, you just take a little, like a business card, and you cut it into a thin strip, and you thread it over and under through the strings, and it creates this sort of crazy kalimba sound.
Nice.
You know, and I knew about this for years and years, but all of a sudden on the most recent record, this little trick was like, you're going to use me for 5 of the tunes.
Nice.
So like, it's just part of the new record is there's a bunch of tunes with really sparse lyrics with this sort of fake kalimba thing.
And the Fox is on the new record,
yeah,
right?
the Fox is the first tune.
Well, let's, you'll play us out. Let's thank everybody for sticking with us for
Thank
90
you.
minutes.
Thanks for tuning in.
And let's all thank Peter for hanging tough for 90 minutes and giving us, you know, it's a fabulous performance. Lots of great things we learned today. And we are so proud of this course and proud to be collaborating with you finally.
Thank you.
We
It's an
have
honor.
a lot to do together, don't we?
This is going to be fun.
All right, the Fox.
All right. It's called The Fox. I was afraid the fox had moved on. I was afraid the fox had moved on. But after last night's storm, after last night's storm, her fresh tracks in the snow. Her fresh tracks in the snow. Her fresh tracks in the snow.